Welcome to the Homeschool Together podcast. Where one working mom and a stay-at-home dad help you navigate the nuts and bolts of the growing and dynamic world of homeschooling.
With a focus on early learners, like me.
All the ins and outs of building and maintaining your homeschool life.
Homeschool.
Find out tips and tricks to make things like this easier.
I'm reading.
And ultimately, enjoy educating your kids. And what's that last thing?
Have fun together. Did I do good, Daddy?
Yeah, you did, sweetie. Good job. Hello and welcome to Homeschool Together podcast. My wife is currently in an apron because she's making Christmas Eve dinner.
Listen. I'm rocking the snowman.
You are. It's a good look on you. Today we had a great interview with Danielle Dabbs from Board Game Babies. This is not necessarily a homeschooling podcast, but there's a lot of game schooling. We did talk about a lot of educational games, a lot of preschool, early elementary games specifically. But before we begin, if you can hop down in the show notes, you will find all the links.
There's so many games mentioned in this episode. Don't even try to know them.
Dozens of games. So those are all linked in the bottom. We also have our resource guide, and if you could hop over to iTunes and leave us a review, it'd be really helpful. So Danielle Dabbs, our game schooling goddess.
Yeah, I think she was so wonderful, and you guys let us know what you think, but we just loved talking with her. We thought it would be fun to maybe bring her back in future to check in and give us new game reviews. Mm-hmm. She's what she calls a wannabe homeschooler. Yeah. She's homeschooling her preschool child and would like to think about maybe homeschooling her older. So they've been using games, especially during the pandemic, to help enrich and reinforce educational concepts. So she's got a ton of great recommendations, and they also have a charity angle to help more kids in foster care and other institutional situations be able to play games. So just a terrific interview. We loved it. We're going to get right to it because it was really long.
Yeah, it's pretty long. So if you like games, buckle in. As I said,
hide your credit card.
Get your dice boards out, and then let's get into it.
Hi, Danielle. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Well, we are really glad to have you here. So if you could start, give us a little bit of background about you and your family and how you started Board Game Babies.
Sure. So my husband and I have been married for a little over 15 years, and we've pretty much been playing board games that entire time. And even before then, we started with games like Settlers of Catan and Ticket to Ride, which I don't know if you're familiar with or your listeners, but those are kind of more of like the entry level games now. And that's what we started with about 15 years ago. And now we've been playing a lot more obscure games, more like Agricola and Fair, Dinosaur Island, things like that. And that was really a big part of our lives until we had kids. And then about 8 years ago, we had our first child. And now suddenly we have 4 children. They just keep multiplying and showing up. So we have an almost 8-year-old, a almost 6-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 1-year-old. And that really took a hit to our board game playing time when they came along. And so we realized if we wanted to have more time to play games, we should start playing more games with the kids. But when they came along, we mostly had a lot of classics that we'd received from family, like Candyland and Chutes and Ladders, which I'm sorry if this offends anyone, but those are just torture to play. It's like,
they're terrible.
No, we throw shade at Milton Bradley all the time.
Oh my gosh, cheap components and crummy gameplay.
Yes.
And just when you think you're at the end, suddenly you're sliding all the way back to the beginning, or someone picks the dang cupcake anyway. So we started.
It's like Mousetrap. It's just like 20 minutes of setting up for you to just trigger the Mousetrap over and over again. It's like, are we going to play?
Actually, we just play Mousetrap as setting it up. We don't even play it. My kids just like to set it up.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I started researching though when we were playing these games with the kids, and because we kept trying to also force them to play some of like our lighter adult games, but for a lot of them they just didn't have the attention span. Like they could maybe understand some of it, but they couldn't sit there for 45 minutes and play a game. or they didn't understand the strategy of it and it was not fun for them and they were frustrated and we were frustrated. So even though they liked games and we liked games, we were on the same page. So I started doing a ton of research and realized that there were a lot of really great family games out there. It's not just Candyland and Chutes and Ladders. And I couldn't believe that with how involved we were in the hobby board game world. I mean, we go to like board game conventions. That's how like much we nerded out when it comes to like the board games.
Yeah, we have a good friend who does board game demos at the Seattle Board Game Convention.
Yeah, what is it?
Comic-Con?
Well, no, it's
not the Comic-Con, but it was something else.
Yeah, I think it might be at like
it was like a board. Yes, we have a good friend who does exactly that as well.
Yeah, it's on my bucket list.
Origins groupies. That's like the Midwest game convention. So we go to that pretty much every year. But even going to that, we had come across like some Haba games and had some of those. So that's some of the first ones we had started with. But even just in this age, we did not realize how we were missing out on so many great kids games. So we just bought a ton of those, especially too in the pandemic. We just keep buying them as we're staying home. And as the kids canceled all their, summer camps and extracurricular activities, we're like, well, let's just shovel this money towards our board game budget. And
I have no idea what this is like.
We have no idea.
So I guess we're on the same page here. So we started playing all those, and then all of our friends started seeing us playing those because I was, posting it on our personal social media. And then I started getting all these messages and emails from our friends like, hey, I want to buy a game. What do you suggest? And so I'm like, okay, y'all stop bothering me. I'm going to put this on Instagram, even though I've never used Instagram before. It just looked pretty there. So I joined that, didn't realize I was joining like an entire board game community, which is an amazing community. But I thought I was just going to catalog some of our games, put some little mini reviews up there, send it to a few friends. But apparently there are a ton of other people out there who are in the same boat that you are in and I am in, we are in, where they're looking for things to do with their kids now that they are at home with them all day, every day, endless amounts of time. And so our pages just started exploding and we were loving it. We've put together our blog too, and then we started an Amazon shop and just we use the proceeds for that to buy games for low-income kids, and I can talk about that later if you want. But we've just had a lot of fun writing the reviews and playing the games. My kids are getting a little annoyed that I take pictures a lot of the times they were playing. Like they start to take my phone and hide it, but mostly they're on board. Now they're like setting up shots and like, take these pictures for your board game friends, Mom.
That's not the right Instagram filter. We need to try something else.
I'm like, maybe they can figure out all my tech. I'm like, can you guys do reels? Have you figured that out yet in second grade? But it's been great for our family. We've been just loving having this account. And again, like the community that is involved in board games and homeschool on Instagram is amazing. Like I'm just getting incredible ideas for all these other things I feel like I've been missing out on in life. All the answers are on Instagram apparently. But my husband, he also works a lot. So it's been great because he's so into board games. And when he comes home, he doesn't always want to play Barbies for 2 hours, but the kids can pretty much always convince him to like sit down and play a game of Zombie Kids or something like that. So for a family, it's been so much fun bonding, and it's really nice to connect with other people and to feel like we're sharing what we've learned, and hopefully other people are finding fun games for themselves too.
Yeah, it's such a dynamic world, and for those folks who only know the Candyland and Chutes and Ladders portion of games, I feel like that's the grubby end of the town of a huge city, right?
Yes.
It's like, oh, you're only seeing the this one end, and it's kind of shabby, and there's just so much more to experience. So I know that your two older children are in school, and your preschooler, you're homeschooling.
Yes.
Can you talk a bit about how you've used games to enhance their learning, help them overcome challenges or difficulties that they're having with some of their school subjects, and kind of how you've leaned into that game schooling aspect?
Sure. So I am what you guys refer to as an accidental homeschooler. I've always loved the idea of homeschooling, but I just never felt like I could take that plunge until like COVID shut everything down in March. but when that happened, actually, it turned out to be a really like seamless transition for us, because I just started pulling out all those games that I'd been collecting, all these educational resources, and just started using them more intentionally as part of our school day. We've always been a family that kind of educates in all we do. Like when we're, at the zoo or out doing something, we're always, making life about learning in a fun way where the kids don't realize they're learning. And so, but this year, yes, our 2 older kids are in hybrid school now, which means they go to our public school 2 days a week, and then a third day alternating weeks. And then I'm actually homeschooling my preschooler, as you said. And so our second grader, when she goes to school on the school days, she has school in school, but then when she's at home, she has to do some school work, but she doesn't have like virtual school where she has to get on meetings or anything. So literally as soon as she's done with whatever tasks the teachers have assigned, it's like a hefty homework for her. And then our kindergartner, his program is only the days he's at school because it's a part-time kindergarten program. So I have been using games with them quite a bit to supplement their education on the days they're home. And I'd say we've been doing that for their entire lives, pretty much, since they've been able to start playing games. But this year it's been really fun because my second grader will get assigned something like the Scrambled Up States book as a read aloud for her math introduction unit at school. And so I see her, I'm watching her do her schoolwork now versus like when she was at school, I didn't necessarily know they read that book in class because not everything comes home. But I'm watching her actually like watch the read aloud on her computer, and I'm like, oh, I'll be right back. I have a game in the closet that I haven't pulled out yet. And I come back with a Game Right Scrambled Up States game.
We have it too.
Yeah, we have it too.
And she was just so excited. And so it's so fun to like, follow up with what they're doing in her curriculum. And I mean, this could go for homeschool too. I mean, you can just build an entire curriculum, I think, to some degree around game schooling, and that is what I'm doing for my preschooler. But for my older kids, it makes things that they're already doing more tangible, and like it's just been a lot more fun. Like we played very silly sentences a lot when they were working on parts of speech, and then we do quicks, which I know you guys are familiar with, in Dragonwood when they're doing activities where she needs to add 2 dice for math. And then she was just recently studying biome, so I pulled out Planet to go with that, and she was super excited. So I'm like, it's so fun for me too to be like, oh yes, I have like something that goes exactly perfectly with this. So my 2 older ones were basically using games like part-time to supplement what we're doing in school, and then we've always and continue to play a lot of games on the weekend, and those are in Daddy's home we play a lot more of the family like strategy games. But the great thing about those are that they're teaching things that aren't necessarily being taught in school, like not just turn taking and cooperation, but also, these more modern board games are teaching, like the thinking ahead and managing your resources, and even something that like a kind of higher level concept that they are teaching in school, and we work a lot with our second grader on, is growth mindset. This idea of like that just because you can't do something yet doesn't mean you won't be able to do it. And I think games are, if you work at it, I think games are super great at teaching that, because so many things that kids need to work on growth mindset with can take weeks or months or years. They can't necessarily start like riding a bike in a day, or learning to ski the second they put on skis. But when they play a game, I know personally too, when I finish a game, I think, well, I want to do that again because I could play that better. Like I could try this strategy and I can get more points if I do this. And so like, that's one of those like kind of higher level concepts that we use to teach them with games that isn't being taught at school. I mean, we do love our public school, and we think we're in a great district, but we also know there is a lot of teaching to the test going on. And so they're not always being given the opportunity to like think creatively or to strategize. And so for us, games are a great way to introduce that to our kids. We don't want them to just learn to memorize facts. We want them to learn how to think and how to problem solve, how to work together to, get out of the school before the zombies get you, or get off the island in Forbidden Island before it sinks. Like those are all things they're learning that they don't know they're learning most. I mean, sometimes it's like, okay, mom, this is a math game, but like 3/4 of the time they're just having fun. So those are my older two. And then, so even though they're in school, like games are such a part of their education. And then my preschooler, I decided to homeschool this year, primarily because of the pandemic. And with her, I'm definitely taking a game schooling approach. So, using games to teach her curriculum. I'm actually.
Do you have
it?
Like, do you have a specific curriculum you're using?
So no, I'm not.
Okay. So how are you designing, or what is your philosophy around the game schooling for the 5-year-old? I'd love to know that.
Well, so she's 4. She just turned 4. So she's in her first year preschool. So I don't have a lot of pressure on me because preschool is non-compulsory in our state. So like she doesn't have to go to preschool. So I don't have to meet state standards for anything. Yeah. But I have been through our kindergarten assessment with my older two. And so I know exactly what they're going to be, because our district does like a pre-assessment in March, the year before they start kindergarten, to see where they're at, to kind of give you a heads up of like, okay, these are areas they may need to work on more over the summer so that they're ready for kindergarten. So I actually have those sheets from my older kids too. So I kind of use those as a reference of like, okay, I know she needs to be able to identify all of her letters. I'm uppercase and lowercase. I know she should know her letter sounds. This is too, like, I always want my kids to go in a little bit too, but so that is what we're working on, that she can identify numbers, that she can use one-to-one correspondence, writing her names, things like that. So some things I can't use games for everything. Like we do add writing to a lot of games actually too, but basically I went like a little overboard in March and had like lots of activity. And I mean, all the parents who homeschool, like you guys, I'm so impressed and amazed constantly. Like I had like the energy to do it for like a month, where I had like a curriculum that I made it myself kind of and stuck with it. And so I've realized that just doesn't work really well for us. Because half the time my other kids are home, so we have to be really flexible. And I want to keep it like preschool fun for her and not make her like feel like she's in kindergarten. So we haven't used like a set curriculum, but basically what I do is every day that we have school for her, I have her pick 2 to 3 games and we play those. And then usually from that, it just like spurs other books that we pick out. So like she actually played Planet with me the other day, and because she saw the older kids playing it and wanted to try it, but she kind of couldn't keep up quite when they were playing because they wanted to like match up all their stuff and score the most points. And so when I played with her, I could kind of just take it down a level and make it not so competitive. But after we played that game, I went around the house, grabbed books of animals in different habitats, and we read like 10 books with animals in different habitats and talked about like what are the things that you need in a habitat. So I'm kind of on the fly with preschool right now, but the game schooling is my base. So whatever she feels like that day, she would pick. But she has 2. So let me say she has 2 shelves of games that are like primarily educational games. So she kind of has to pick from those. Like she can't just pick all the like fun. I mean, most of our games have education at that age anyway. I'm trying to think of something that doesn't even have it, but like she'll have to pick like a letter game. So we use like the Super Y ABC game or ABC Bingo, sequence letters, things like that to do, or like Spot It, ABC Match. So she always usually picks one of those. And then a math game, like one-to-one correspondence with like Unicorn, Glitter, Luck, Cloud, Crystals, or Counter Chickens.
Unicorn, Glitter, Luck. Oh, I have not played a million.
Oh my gosh, Unicorn, Glitter, Luck.
Oh my God, I've played so much.
That helped our daughter with counting so much.
Oh my God.
My gosh.
Those gems, they get everywhere.
They do.
Oh, we found like 4 of them the other day, and I'm like, where did these even come from?
Like the nightmare of stepping on the Lego. No, that's not true.
No. Those gems are wicked.
Keep following Dante down, and you'll have the Unicorn Glitter Luck pieces at the bottom of that.
They're so sharp. Who designed this?
They're all like
so
and
true.
they're all really sharp too. Anyway, I know I've I've played a fair amount of.
We digress.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Yes, that's exactly what we're doing here too, and finding them all over, even though I don't know where they come from. So yeah, so we do that, and like she's already starting to learn addition and subtraction concepts using the game Bus Stop, and and then we do like comparing number values with Hoot Owl Hoot and Rad Tack Cat.
Cool.
So even though like I don't have a curriculum and I do feel like I'm kind of winging it a little bit, she is doing a lot of things that are more at kindergarten level, even because of the games that we're playing and because we're not necessarily tied to a specific curriculum either. So I don't know
and
what
that's
we're doing.
and that's it's fine. That's a lot of what we've been doing. We've been doing our digital curriculums. We do Torchlight, Blossom and Root, Build Your Library, and then we have some additional curriculums that we've been
They're
doing.
all literature based.
These are all literature based things, and then we do
Okay.
our All About Reading and Right Start Math for our daughter's 5 years old, and she's still in pre-K, and she's going to be going to kindergarten next year. But those are the math and the reading ones are kindergarten level programs, but we're doing a pre-K curriculum. So to do all the literature and the was it the outdoor study and all that stuff. But we do fold in a lot of the same games. So it's funny because I do like to do more of a learner led. A lot of the people listening to this know this, but I'd like to do a lot of learner led studies on whatever subject she's interested in. Like today we were doing woodworking. I built like a little house with her, and she was using the screwdriver and stuff because she was interested in that. And so I totally understand what you're saying, where you just say, hey, what are the couple games you like, let's go do it, and then you start branching off of that. I do that on a daily basis. So you're not like wildly in out in the wheat field, running around. You are very normal in what I think, especially at the
if
level
there's
that,
normal in homeschool, I think that's like everyone
especially
does it
at the
so
level you're at
uniquely.
with the 4-year-old 5-year-old type of thing.
What I want to know though, and
Yeah.
we our 5-year-old loves games. She takes after us too, which is awesome. But we have an 18-month-old, so you have a 1-year-old. Like we can't get the time with her to play games and to do things. It's that little one is a challenge.
That's why we do a lot of reading too, because he'll like sit there with us, or at least like we always, our dining room is what we call our baby jail. Like it's all gated, so like you can't get out. It's not a dining room, it's just a room of toys, but like it's like all gated with a couch in it, so that we just like the baby can just roam and destroy everything and take everything apart while I'm sitting in there reading. But that doesn't work very well with games because he wants to get into pieces. So he typically is taking apart our homeschool cart if he's in the room with us. Like it's all pencils and markers that he just dumps and picks back up and dumps again, or colors on the floor, whatever he decides to destroy in the like 10 minutes we're trying to play. But I do try to, like, he was taking a morning nap for a while, so that was like our really good game time, which was awesome. He's not doing that so much anymore. So I've kind of done our stuff that we can do in the morning more together, and then I'll put him down for nap, and then I'll just she is still napping by the grace of God. And so I'll put her down for nap, because 2 to 3 other days a week, I have 2 other kids home too. So because it is like a lot of stuff going on. But when it's just the 2 of them, and those are the days I try to really like have her school specific days, I put him down for a nap, and then she stays up and plays a couple of games before she goes down to nap. But sometimes we can get them in the morning. It just kind of depends on how he's doing. Like sometimes I can see him from if he's in like our dining room, baby playroom. I can see him from where we're playing games too. So if he's happy, sometimes he can be in there still being kind of supervised, but he can't get to us. Okay. So that's one of our, that's been something that's saved us quite a bit with 4 kids, is having the like safety zone where they can't really get into anything.
So you talked a little bit about how, the older kids like to play Planet. And then with your younger kid, they're very competitive. They want to get the most points. They want to solve, to build the biggest areas or go after certain cards. But your youngest wasn't really into that. And you said you kind of stepped down the rules a little bit, or stepped down the intensity. Do you find yourself doing kind of making up rules or adjusting rules for games based on the age level? This was something that I did for a long time with my oldest when she was like 2, 3, and 4 years old. I was taking out games like Carcassonne. I was taking out games like Catan, and I was playing with her, kind of modifying rules, modifying the game, but using the pieces as sort of manipulatives. Do you do some of that with the younger kids, and then, work them into the actual rules of the game eventually?
We have so many great kids games now that I haven't really done that with any of our adult games, because I mean, it's just insane the number that we've accumulated. But I do still do that because I've got such a variety of ages, because I have, you know, a newly 4-year-old up to an almost 8-year-old. Sometimes we do adjust the games so that they all can play. So like, I know a game you guys like too that we play a lot is Sleeping Queens. That's one of our favorites. And that one's really easy to adjust because my 8-year-old can change the way she does the equations and even you know, can do subtraction or multi-step equations, and my 4-year-old can just turn in pairs. So I don't even necessarily have her use the equation component, or I help her with it sometimes, but we make this like that.
We made the same adaptation for we made the same rule change for our 5-year-old as well. We stripped out that math component. We just did pairs.
I wish that they would think on that and come up with, you know, rule adaptations so that we didn't have to do that. So it could be a multi-age. That would be so nice, right?
One of my other friends actually suggested even taking out the like 6 through 10 cards so that you just worked on 1 through 5 for doing the equations, which I thought was a great. I think I even wrote that and added it to my review later. I was like, all right, you're brilliant. Let's put that in there.
That's a good idea.
It doesn't work if we're playing with multi ages, but if I'm just playing with her, I can do that. And I do that, like, because some games we all play, some games I'm just playing with my 4-year-old. Sometimes I'm playing with just the older two. Sometimes we're just playing with my almost 6-year-old. It just changes day to day and interest level with what game's out to what they want to play. And then we've changed a couple of games to be like more cooperative. Like, have you guys played Dragonwood?
Yes. Yep.
So Dragonwood is technically competitive, but we feel like it doesn't play well that way. Like, it's more like, because we turn it kind of into like an adventure game where you're like making up a story and there's kind of like a little role play element to it. And so it doesn't seem like there should be a winner. So we've made like a scale. So you're like either like an awesome adventure or like a novice adventure, depending on how many points you get. So we've done kind of like little rule changes like that to make it less competitive sometimes.
That's cool.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, those games that are cooperative, especially with this younger game set, they can get really wrapped around winning and being the winner, and that can lead to all sorts of bad feelings for the one who's not the winner, and that I want our daughters to be competitive, but not to the point that other people don't want to play with you. So
we have seen 4-year-olds rage quit on some games sometimes.
Right. And that's why I love these young games that are focusing, the Peaceable Kingdoms and some of the Habas that are focusing on being cooperative, because it's something that I think that they don't get as many opportunities to do that in other types of normal mainstream games to cooperate with one another.
I agree. We play a lot of cooperative games because we have a lot of kids too. And I think we love kids, but it seems like there's a lot of them. And we want them to learn to work together and get along and problem solve. But I think the other thing is too, that I feel like our kids are actually really good losers, like really good at losing. I shouldn't say losers, like really good at losing. And I think that is because of all the cooperative games that we've played. They actually see, like, when they lose with us. So they're
together.
seeing us modeling how we lose. So like a lot of times if you're playing against each other, when the kids win, they're so excited to win, they don't care that you've lost, so they don't pay attention to whether you're a good loser or not. And when they lose, they're usually so unhappy that they've lost that they don't want to be taught how to be good at losing. And so I think for playing these cooperative games, our kids are really focused more on like when we lose together, we can talk about how we enjoyed playing and how it was so much fun, and well, what can we try differently next time, and well, let's just play again. And so I think that has really helped them to be even better in being competitive, because even when they lose, they enjoy the game more. So they're still competitive. They still want to win when it's competitive, but there's not meltdowns and screaming almost ever, which is surprising to me because they melt down and scream about a lot of things, but like that is not one of them. And I really think it's because of all the cooperative games we play and how they've kind of been able to learn to lose by mommy and daddy lost with them, or they've lost as a team, and we're going to just try different next time. And that's a like growth mindset idea too. But
Yeah, it's nice, with cooperatives also you can discuss your strategy. So as you're playing and you draw a card, you're openly discussing what you would do, which kind of informs them about, some keys to how you would play. And you're right, when you lose, the first thing we do is say, next time we should have done this, or we should watch the suns, how many suns have come up, and we should start taking bigger leaps in hoot owl hoot or whatever. So I think it gives you a way to analyze and help them work through that problem too of what went wrong and how could we do better.
Yeah, modeling the behavior. I had a question regarding, you've had a number of kids, you've seen them grow up, you play a lot of games with them. Have you seen playing games as a way to improve maybe two things, improve their critical thinking skills? Do you notice your kids can think through problems, in general a lot easier because they play abstract, complex games? And then also, what about the language skills? I noticed my daughter really grow in the language skills when we were talking and conversing and, talking about the rules or talking about details of what we were playing. I saw her language kind of explode. So have you seen those two things with your kids over like, years of playing games?
yeah, I mean, I think they definitely have grown in both those areas. I mean, I feel like we are really in the sweet spot for them right now. Like they're really have just gotten into more of the strategy type games in the
Okay.
last like year and a half. Our oldest daughter is our one who has like our lowest attention span. So like she and my 8-year-old and my 6-year-old actually are kind of like at the same level of attention span. So they've been playing like growing into the strategy games together. But I mean, they definitely are able to like lead us in a cooperative game at this point, which to me shows me that they like get the strategy, like they're coming up with the ideas of how to do stuff. So when we typically start playing those games, you can tell like we're guiding them and they're sort of doing what we tell them to do to some degree, but they really like take that on their own now. And I do think the language thing is definitely like something that they have grown in. Especially we were playing Disney code names. Have you guys played code names or?
Yeah, we played regular code names.
We played regular code names, yeah.
So the Disney one is with pictures, which I actually prefer to regular code names because I'm terrible at code names. But with
I am
pictures,
too. I am too.
It's the pictures. You may actually like it a lot better with pictures because you have like more to work from. But we thought there was no way that our, at that time when we started playing it, like our 7-year-old could be the caller. And she's like, no, I want to be the caller. And she like tested herself and she's coming up with clues that were better than I could come up with. So just like her ability to connect things, but also to talk about it. That like, I mean, there's another game we play called Dinosaur Tea Party. Have you guys played? It's basically Guess Who on cards, but with more people. And it's really cute art. But so you have to play with 3 people or more. So Guess Who's 2 people only. This is more than 2. And you have to, ask those questions and be confident in asking your questions. And I think even just that, like not being shy or not being afraid to speak up or to say what your question is, are things that they're getting in games that they're not necessarily getting in class either. Like they're not typically standing up and talking or being put on the spot to speak in front of people. And even though it's still our family, they're still, when they're the caller or when it's like their turn to ask a question, they've got to be the one who initiates that conversation. We can't do it for them. So I think that has been something that has really helped them grow. So yeah, I don't know what next year is going to hold for our family, but games are such a part of our culture that I know, like in our family culture, that we'll still be playing them, even if kids are all in full-time school or if I decide to homeschool or preschool again next year. Because I also think that a lot of kids who aren't homeschooled don't have as much opportunity at school to kind of work beyond grade level or engage with things that are interesting to them. And when they come home from school, they don't want to do a worksheet or assignment. So we will always use games to kind of help them be able to do those skills and teach and reinforce those things. But the other thing I did want to mention too was, because I don't think like people who are even homeschooling, I know a lot of people like, obviously you take a break for the summer too, but I think games are a great thing to do during the summer. We have a lot of friends that make our kids do worksheets and schoolwork over the summer, and there's nothing wrong with that, but that does not work for our family. It would be torture for our kids. It would be torture for me, but like summer will be like game schooling all the time, and the kids won't even know it, because that's when I feel like too they can learn all this stuff, and it won't be a battle of wills. It'll be fun, because we know summer side's a real thing, but I think games can be a way to combat that in a really fun way.
Yeah, it's definitely good. Even like holiday times, like now we're getting ready to, this will be coming out in January, but we're recording it prior to Christmas. We're going to be getting ready to stop our homeschooling for the holidays, but we still want to keep some of those skills going. And it's like games are such a great way to do that, right? When they don't even realize they're learning, but you're still getting a little bit of math and a little bit of reading and letter recognition and things. It's a good stealth way to make sure that we don't slump back and kind of forget and lose some of our momentum. So it's also great for that. So we've been talking about how great games are to help with strategic thinking, planning ahead, cooperation, all these aspects. Can you tell us, do you have any kind of specific examples of times when your child was struggling with a skill in school or met a challenge and you used games to help, get them over that hump or teach that skill that they needed?
Yes, absolutely. So when the school building shut down here in March, well, everywhere in March, our oldest was in first grade. And that was when I got a really up close and personal look at what she was doing at school. And one of the things that she had to do daily at home during the homeschool, or learning at home, remote learning portion of last year was an online math program where she was working on addition fluency. So she'd be timed to see how fast she could do her addition facts up to 10. And it was literally torture for her. I mean, she was like crying and whining and arguing every single time I brought up the name of this program that she had to do online. And it was just a constant battle. So I was watching her do this super, super boring program. And it's kind of stressful too, because she's like freaking out because she's being timed. She didn't know how to use a mouse. She's like clicking on the wrong things. And I watched her do that. And I know we've talked about it already, but a light bulb went off in my head. I'm like, why are we not playing Sleeping Queens with her? So that's when we pulled out Sleeping Queens, and she would play 20 hands of it in a row. And she was doing the same addition facts that she was in the computer program, but no complaints, no whining. And so that was amazing. But then also that's when my 5-year-old started playing more with us, and he wasn't even in kindergarten at that point. Because he was playing, he started adding and then figuring out subtraction. And we hadn't been planning on teaching him those things, but he was enjoying the game so much, he was learning those skills. So it was something that my daughter was struggling with and that he like proactively learned. So he's in kindergarten now and he can add up to 20 and subtract within 20. And they haven't even introduced adding in his class yet.
Right.
But I think that was the game that really hit me, how powerful these games are as an educational tool. And that's what kind of motivated me to share with others, because I saw her just struggling with a basic skill. And it wasn't because she couldn't do it. It was because it was being presented to her in a way that she hated and was just, just frustrating and difficult. And in the game form, it just didn't have that same stress for her. It was just fun, and she could be carefree and and really focus on just enjoying the game, but she was doing all the same math skills.
So did playing the game increase her confidence to the point that she was able to to meet the obligations that the school had with this program and feel more confident to do that now that she had played enough and felt good about her addition skills?
Yes, I think she was really losing confidence, and some of it was just computer skills. She just had not had a lot of time on the computer and was just being thrown into that. But because she could do the math, but she was starting to feel stressed out and bad about it. But when she realized she could do it in the game, it helped her realize that she could do it. I knew she could do it, and she, I think, knew deep down she could do it, but she wasn't doing it on the computer program. And she wasn't getting the achievement she thought she needed, but she was achieving when she was winning the game. So she was happy about that.
So do you have any games? So let's go into the game recommendations.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the most important thing. we do a lot of game reviews. We do, a ton of games here. We've mentioned a lot of games on our podcast. Do you have any games that maybe you can talk about, maybe some corner case obscure games that people got to get? And then maybe do you have like just a list of like, a couple games that
Yeah,
you use all the
let's.
time, and maybe you could just give a few recommendations.
Yeah, if you want to start kind of the preschool age set, and
Yeah.
then we can talk maybe early elementary. We would love to hear some new recommendations. And I'm gonna hide my credit card until this is over.
Okay, yes, do that because I have a lot of
You've
games.
already got me to buy one game. I love
Oh my
Silver and
gosh.
Gold. Matthew and I
Oh,
bought
I was
it.
going to talk about that one too.
Oh, talk
that's
about
one
it.
of our
It's
favorite.
really
Okay.
good. Really good.
Well, start with preschool. That's not a preschool game. So in my mind and kind of in our life, we have two categories of preschool games, and I feel like this is good to be upfront with people about, because there's preschool comes in sort of the educational games, and for most of those, I enjoy them much more than Candyland, but those aren't the ones I'm like really pulling off the shelf for fun. I'm pulling them off more for the educational content. And then I think there is a whole set of out there of like really fun preschool games. Like they're still learning stuff, but these are the ones like I would probably pull off and play even if my 4-year-old wasn't playing with me. So I was going to share two of each of those because I feel like it's not necessarily fair to lump them together. Again, the educational games are fun. They're just not as fun as the fun games. So the ones in the educational category for preschool that I love, I think I kind of mentioned it earlier, there's a game by Orchard Toys called Bus Stop, and there's actually almost an identical Zoo Train version on Amazon that is significantly cheaper, and I think it's pretty much the same, just the one I play has a die that you roll. But I really like this game because I feel like it incorporates all the educational things you could want to do for math, in my opinion, for like preschool. So in this game, you roll a die, and then so you're counting the pips on the die or identifying them, which is a strategy that I want my 4-year-old to have, is to be able to look at the die face and know how many she's rolling. And then you move your bus around like a little neighborhood, and at each space you land on either a plus sign or a minus sign. And depending on what you land on, you spin a spinner to see how many people get on your bus or get off your bus. So she's counting the pips, then she's using, one-to-one correspondence to move her bus, that number of spaces. Then she's learning the difference between the addition and subtraction symbols. So like I'm already putting that in front of her. It's already in her vocabulary. And then she's also using one-to-one correspondence to count the number of people that she's putting on or taking off. And you do that the whole way around until you get back to the bus station. So I really like that one a lot from an educational perspective.
Ariel just loaded that one up into her Amazon
cart. But there is.
I'm having to laugh because Matthew's miming to me. He's like, "Buy this one.
Buy this game. We need this game."
Oh my god, we're gonna be broke by the end of this.
The Zoo Train version is a lot cheaper. It does not. It comes with 2 spinners. From what I've seen, a couple of my followers like accidentally ordered that one, and so I was like, okay, that's the one that's actually in my Amazon shop now. Anyway, because I'm all about saving money. But you could just add a die. I mean,
I'm just gonna be broke by the time this episode's over.
Sorry.
we need to write our congresswoman, senator. They need to up the stimulus money.
Or you need to get your library to start lending out games, because people
I wrote
their
to
libraries
them.
do that, and I am so jealous. So
I literally wrote to our head librarian and asked if they were going to do it, and if they were, did they need a game curator?
Yeah.
And she said they weren't going to do it yet, but they would call me. So that's out there. My second career.
Second career.
Anyway, please continue, Danielle.
No, it's fine. And I mean, we basically have a library now too. I should just start like my own lending program here. But
right.
So if it wasn't like needing to be quarantined every time I came back. But anyway, so the other game then for like on the flip side of that for reading, again, not the most fun game in the world, but our kids actually love this game, which I'm like, okay, if you love it, you love it. Like that's good. I love you loving the educational games. But is this game called Super Y ABC game? Have you guys seen this? It's based on the PBS Kids show, Super Y, and it's literally the easiest game. Like you just roll and move around the board. I think you spin a spinner, right? So you spin the spinner, you move around the board. So you're doing a little bit of just roll and move math, but then you land on a Super Y character, and there's 4 different types of cards, and so they're each type of card has a different strategy or like reading strategy that they're using. So some of them are like determining the starting letter sound of a word, coming up with rhyming words to the other words on the card, reading the words on the card on the board, or identifying, like they'll show you the capital letter and you have to find the lowercase letter or vice versa. So we do that one a lot for preschool because it just incorporates all those components that I'm trying to teach her for her, letter recognition and sound recognition, and then the rhyming and starting to read. We kind of skip the reading ones with her right now, but that's the ones my 6-year-old does too. And then I actually added a whiteboard to that game, so she practices writing the letter. So whether she's like figuring out which letter matches or figuring out the starting letter sound, she also then writes the letter on the whiteboard, and she actually thinks the whiteboard is part of the game because she hasn't played it any other way. So again, not like I'm not going to play that by myself with my husband, but there's so much educational value that even though I don't think they're super fun, the kids actually love them too. So those are two that we play that are like, we're really game schooling. Let's get down to business. This is like homeschool preschool games. But then the two fun games that I want to talk about are like two of my like favorite games. Like I would probably play these without kids. So one is called Dragamino, and it's the kids' version of King Domino, which I think you guys are familiar with.
Yeah, we have King Domino and Queen Domino and Age of Giants. Yeah, we
we
know
got
King
them all.
Domino.
Yes.
So do
how
you
is
have
it?
Dragamino?
No, we don't.
How is
Okay.
it? Well,
go ahead
explain,
and put that in your
explain what it
Amazon
is.
cart. Just put it in there. I'll explain. Just go ahead.
Yep, I'm doing it.
Jeez, you're a bad influence.
I'm sorry. I know, but I'll tell you how you can help people with stuff. Anyway, so I think this is perfect for preschoolers. And even though my older kids can play King Domino, they actually prefer this one because there aren't the grid limitations, and there are also adorable baby dragons, which they are all obsessed with and like want to take care of. So it uses the same tile drafting mechanism that King Domino does, and you're still matching up the areas, but every time you match up an area, you get to pick an egg, and that egg either has a cracked egg on it or it's a little baby dragon that you then like put in its little habitat, like in the area that you matched up. And so if you're matching up multiple sections, you can pick 2 eggs, and then whoever has the most dragons at the end wins the game. And it's super fun, but it actually has also introduced probability to them because there are the same number of dragons for each type of egg, but some of the types have fewer eggs. So like our kids know if they line up the lava area and they pick an egg, there are fewer eggs and they have a better chance of getting a dragon. So even though like I think that one is super, super fun, there's still, a math component to it. And then of course they're like counting their dragons at the end. And then the mechanic of matching up the domino areas, but just the release of not having to do that grid back, they can build their dominoes any way they want. And King Domino, even though our older kids can play, I still feel like they are, we're like, wait, no, you can't build one. Even my husband, I'm like, no, you can't build that there. Like that's too far. So he's going to kill me.
So by the time this comes out, actually, we'll have a King Domino review that will have come out.
Oh, okay.
And so there's a hack to that, actually. If you go to the Blue Orange website, they have some freebies. And one of the things they have both a printable color and one for a coloring page for your kids, but it's actually a 5x5 and 7x7 grids so that you could put that down on the table and it would help you to, stay in the lines.
Okay.
So and there's a couple of free games as well that they have that are print and plays.
Well, I'll get that for my husband. No, I'm just kidding.
But yeah, no, it's nice because even us, we go, oh gosh, wait, we have to make this 5x5 grid. And then, Matt's remind me, you can't do that, so
yes.
It could be kind of helpful to have. I was thinking I would probably laminate the grids and keep them around.
No, that's a really good tip. Thank you. There's so many things. I feel like I know lots of things and there's so many things I don't know. Like so much I learn every day.
So much.
But I do like, the thing I do like about Dragamino is that like as young as 3 can play it. So it's like, I feel like there are very few games, not very few, but there are few games in our collection that really span that like 3 to 8-year-old age that they're all still really engaged in and can play together. And so this I really like because this is one of those.
Yeah, definitely. It's a hard that's a hard age span. I think you and I have talked before that, before 5, because 5 is really that sweet spot when they can start to
Hmm.
play older games. And so yeah, you get kind of the preschool games, they're kind of segregated into only this is all that they can do really, and then the older
Yes.
games. So that's a good recommendation. So what's your second fun game for
So the
preschool?
other one that I really like right now is My First Castle Panic. Have you guys played that one?
And
We have regular
we
Castle
have
Panic.
regular Castle
Okay,
Panic.
so it's a really simplified version of Castle Panic, and it incorporates like some colors and shapes, but really it's mostly a lot of cooperation and strategy. So the monsters are kind of similar to Castle Panic. They're trying to get to the castle, but in this case, you're moving along a path to get to the castle, and you're using your cards and your teammates' cards to match the space the monster's on. So like they might be on like a red triangle, so you need a red triangle card to take them, and then you throw them in the dungeon. So that one is really fun because we also like incorporate a story with it, some role play, and then it's just good for reinforcing colors and shapes, but it's not like so educational like, Bus Stop or the Super YABC game is. And because it's cooperative, it does those same things that we talked about, like that we are on the same team and we win or lose as a team, and similar to the Peaceable Kingdom games. But I feel like my older kids actually enjoy this one a little bit more, even though it's like colors and shapes. Just the way it plays strategically and like getting to throw them in the dungeon, they seem to have more fun with this when they even kind of like are growing out of the Peaceable Kingdom ones a little bit. But I do
And
love all the Peaceable
yeah,
Kingdom games too, and I really recommend those for preschool
well,
age.
and
But
it does look like it kind of introduces the idea that monsters are coming onto the board. You're removing
yes,
them, so you can level them up to the larger game. It seems like this
yes.
is kind of a simplified. Yeah, you're right. A
Yeah, good
simplified
stepping
version of it.
stone. There may or may not be Ticket to Ride First Journey and Catan Junior under the Christmas tree right now because we are
Spoilers.
also trying to
What
level up
what if
our
she's
daughter
Yeah.
for the
listening to
next
our
one.
podcasts?
What?
What if she's listening to our
Oh,
podcast?
she's not listening.
No, she's
She's
5
okay.
years old.
This one doesn't come out till January. Haha.
She'll already know.
She already
That's
knows.
right.
I'm getting Castle Panic.
Well, we're
She's
just
probably
trying
at the
to.
door right now.
Yeah.
Probably
It's
is.
like you don't want to buy junior versions of games, right? Because it's like, oh, that's a waste. I have the adult version and I don't want to spend $20 on the junior version. But really, we've come to realize, I think mostly through our daughter playing Ticket to Ride First Journey on the iPad, that there's a value to that junior level game. And there could be quite a good number of years that's the appropriate level, and not having them try to play, upper level Catan or Ticket to Ride.
Yes. Well, and again, too, when you have like multiple kids, like when your younger one is older, they'll be able to play those together easier, which is nicer versus having them on different games. And like, so my 6-year-old really loves Castle Panic, but again, when he's playing Castle Panic, we're really guiding the strategy. I mean, we're
Mhm.
really like,
Yeah.
hey, don't you want to use this card, or do you want us to trade this one? So the thing
You're
I
like
do,
alpha playering.
I know it is bad though. It is. We do. But that being said, like he really likes my first Castle Panic because he can like almost kind of alpha player my 4-year-old a little bit because he gets it and like he can do it. Like, and there's still like some of the like, when you get this monster, it pushes all the monsters forward, or this one jumps to the front of the line. So there are like dynamics. But I like that he can play the older game, but he's still, even though he's in kindergarten, he still really likes playing. Even my almost 8-year-old really likes playing this one because it's just because they can play it. And again, too, like these games, then they can play independently, which, oh my gosh, the best thing ever, when they can just play themselves and pull out a game. Like they will often take out Dragamino and play without me, which I just love.
That sounds
as
like
much as I
heaven.
do love playing games,
Yeah.
it's really nice to be able to do something else while they're, because I've got that other baby running around too. Who knows what he's doing at that point. So when they will play together, I really like that. So I guess some of my preschool fun games are also have the lens of like, are these games that all of my kids enjoy playing, even if they're not in preschool? And that is what makes them really good in my book, because then I can have all my kids playing the same thing without complaining about like, this is a baby game or this game's too hard. Or
Yeah, that's terrific. So we talked preschool. Let's move up to early elementary. What are your recommendations for that age set?
okay, so we have kindergartner, second grade. We talked about that, and I think that's just the sweet spot. Like these are where the games get so fun. I'm like, seriously, like we have a couple more things to go in Zombie Kids, and I'm like, can we just play this without them if they don't want to play, like finish it right now? Because like these are the ones we like want to play at our home. But even though a lot of them do seem like they're more for fun too, like there is a lot of educational value. So this was really hard to choose just a few of these. So if you want me to just keep going, I could be out here all night if you want me to. But I have
may have
written
to
up
do
like
a check-in with you in a
Yeah,
while.
dude,
You've explored and found a bunch of new recommendations and call you back.
well, I do have like I think I've written up 85 reviews on our Instagram page too, so you can always check there too. But
well, it's getting late. This is game reviews after dark.
yes. So you mentioned it, but I think the biggest surprise for us for this age has been the flip and write game called Silver and Gold.
We have played. So,
gosh,
Ariel told me about this game. She even showed it to me on YouTube, and I was like, it's Tetris.
But I'd already bought it, so you had to
Tetris.
be kind of
All right, fine. I gotta play it. All right, we'll play it. We have played so many hands of this game.
This is such a fun game.
And
it's so fun. Have you tried it with your 5-year-old yet?
No.
Okay.
No.
I was just curious.
Not yet.
But we haven't talked about it on the podcast yet. So tell our listeners what is Silver and Gold.
So I actually bought this for me and my husband to play, and my kids saw it and they're like, we want to play this game. So I'm like, all right, let's try it, see what they can do. They love it. They're obsessed with it. Like both of them say it's in their top, or almost 8-year-old or almost 6-year-old say it's in their top 5 games. Like this is one they pull off constantly. So it's a game where you actually use dry erase markers to draw on your cards, which
not
first
just,
of all,
no, cool. Not just dry erase card. The best
dry
erase cards and markers on the planet.
There's never been better game components than these.
I want to buy I want to buy a copy of it, steal all the dry erase markers, and everything, and put it into all my other games.
You're right, though. No, it's true. They are
so
the
good.
Best dry erase markers. They really are. They're the best ones ever.
Sorry.
But it is like, but as like a gamer, at first you're like, oh my gosh, I'm writing on these cards. Is this going to be okay? And like it is really good quality. But so
Game right. If you're listening, you need to level up your Quicks game.
Oh, Quicks Deluxe.
Quicks, come on, talk to these guys.
I know. I always like kind of ding them too for not putting golf pencils in with the paper ones. I'm like, just put a few golf pencils in. I mean, we keep golf pencils in bulk at this point, but like, I'm like, I just want a few. But I mean, I should laminate those anyway. So really, it is all about the dry erase markers. So, side note, have you guys tried erasable pens yet?
Are these is this the not the microwave thing?
No, I use them at work.
You don't. They have erasers on them. We use them for cartographers, and they're awesome. Anyway,
cartographers. We may be getting that game too.
Are you giving away a Christmas present for your wife?
No.
On the podcast? Are you telling everyone what's under the Christmas tree for me?
No, this is being released. After.
It's in January. Knows? Don't you already know? You know this.
Right. Right. I mean,
right.
I would love that if that's
who knows. I may or may not have gotten. I don't know.
Well, bring those erasable pens home from work just in case. But
so Silver and Gold.
Back to Silver and Gold. So it is similar to cartographers, but anyway, you are taking dry erase markers and you're drawing these polyomino shapes on your treasure cards. And then there's all sorts of bonuses you can get with coins and palm trees and jewels. And this game incorporates so much math for our kids. So first of all, I think just drawing the Tetris shapes and being able to look at the sample card of what shape you're supposed to draw, and then like mentally thinking about rotating it and flipping in your head to fit on the card is something that our kids are not learning at school. Like, I don't know if they'll ever learn that at school. Maybe like in high school. I have no idea. I'm not there yet.
The spatial dimension, flipping, rotating, mirroring all, shapes in your head and then putting them on the board is not something they'll ever get. And being able to visualize that is just an incredible skill.
Yeah.
So the fact that our kids are like doing that, I mean, they didn't, at first they're just drawing it and how it looks. And we're like, well, you can, we're showing them how you can rotate it. And then we're talking about flipping it. So like all of that, I mean, they just keep growing in it and they're really doing it now, like, cause they play it so much. So I just think that's a fantastic component of this game that again, like you said, it's not necessarily even going to be taught maybe at all. And I can't think of another game that does that level of flipping. Like we have the Hobbit Tiny Park game where you are like, you're physically placing the tile. So it is like, we have other polyomino placing games, but this one, because you're mentally doing it before you draw it, I think is just really awesome for them, for their learning. And then there's tons of adding with the scoring at the end, and we make our kids do all that. So it goes from, very simply counting their coins that they earned by crossing those off on their little treasure cards, and then adding that to any bonuses, up to where they add their, 5 different 8 to 14 point cards together. Now we have to help them with that, but our second grader is really getting that. And again, that's not like, that kind of math is, I think, still even a little bit beyond what she's doing in school. So, and then she's even using, very simple multiplication for the bonuses, because if you have, 4 of the diamond cards or whatever it is, and you have a bonus that gives you 2 points for each, you're doing some basic multiplication when you're adding it. And so even though she hasn't done multiplication yet, I've been able to introduce it to her practically, and it just makes sense. So now she gets the concept of multiplication. Even my kindergartner, he's getting it because he wants to be able to do all the adding for that at the end of his scoring. So I love that game.
No, we have been playing a lot of hands of it.
Yeah, it's a terrific game.
amazing.
We thank you for the recommendation.
Well, you should try it with your 5-year-old, see how it goes.
We will. We may try.
Maybe next year. I mean, she's still in preschool, but I would say like that one is one that I didn't expect to be an early elementary game. I saw it kind of advertised as a adult game, and it's turned out to be, I think, a really great Gameschooling game. But so another elementary game that I really like a lot is Draftosaurus. You guys played this one?
I almost bought this like last week. It was on sale, and I was like, oh.
I know, I posted the sale too.
I know.
It didn't entice you enough. Okay, well, decide later. So, I mean, first of all, it has dinosaur meeples, which
need we say more?
I was gonna say, yeah, I'm sure all your listeners know what a meeple is, but dinosaur meeples, and they're all different, and they're so cute, and they're so colorful. In this game, you're actually drafting the meeples, which means you're taking turns picking from a selection of dinosaurs that everyone shared. So like Sushi Go, it's like the same drafting concept, but dinosaur meeples. So you take those dinosaurs, you pick what you want, then you pass the pile, they pick what they want, and then you're putting them in your little dinosaur park, and they have different pens which score different points in different ways. So for younger players, like our kindergartner, he's just mostly following the restrictions. Like your park is divided in half, so sometimes you have to place it on a certain half of the park, or the top or the bottom, or whatever the restrictions on the die that you roll tells you to do that. So he mostly is kind of just following the restrictions, but he loves, picking the dinosaurs and putting them in the pen. But then my second grader, she's really to the point where she's looking at the different ways that each dinosaur pen can score, and then trying to figure out, okay, well, which is the best strategically to place my dinosaur to maximize points. So she's really thinking at like a higher level, and then using just different math concepts to figure out how to place her dinosaurs. And then when you score, you're scoring each of the pens based on their qualifications. So some of them are like, if you have pairs, every pair scores 4 points or whatever it is. Or sometimes if you have each different kind of dinosaur in that pen, the more unique dinosaurs you have, the more points you get overall. So there's like a set number that you get then for that pen, and then they have to add all that together. And so I just think it's the cutest.
Are they pulling the dinos out of the bag like kind of blindly, sort of like?
So you have a bag, and then you're pulling like.
Yeah, sort of like the Quacks of Quedlinburg type of thing.
So that one is under our tree for Christmas.
Super fun.
We have played like literally 100 games of that.
My gosh.
Yeah, we have a part of our corn team is a couple that lives alone, and they're gamers, and they come over and
we play
they bring
Quacks.
Quacks. It's very
That's
good.
awesome. Yeah, so that one is on our list, so I can't say for sure, but it's like, so there's a bag, and you pull out 2 basically for every person, and then one person takes one, and then you pass the whole pile. So you're seeing what is kind of, I don't know if technically you're supposed to be seeing, like that's where we like fudge the rules a little bit, like our kids can kind of look at what we're doing. But the only downside I think about Draft Source is that I don't think it plays as well with 2 players. So that one is really good to play with both of the kids or for all 4 of us to play together. It just doesn't draft quite as well because you're like tossing your extras instead of everybody picking from what's selected. But I just think it's like a game that most, like a lot of kids will start at like 6, 5, 6, and up to adults play it. So it's like that, it just spans a really wide range. And I just like the concept of that. They're trying to do the point maximization, kind of like Sushi Go. You know, you're always trying to figure out how do you get the most points out of your cards, but it's dinosaur meeples in your little dinosaur. We're doing like an entire, like probably month of dinosaur game reviews because I have 8 or 9 of them that I've been hoarding, like waiting to do all together. So obviously we have like a little bit of an obsession here, but
you guys got Dinosaur Island as well.
We have Dinosaur Island, yes, Dinogenics, Dinosaurs. I literally can't even remember them all. SOS Dino, Dinosaur Tea Party.
So there's a print and play for Quicks called Jurassico.
Yeah, if you go back and listen to our Quicks episode that just came out,
we do a lot of
the same dice as Quicks, but it's like a I don't know, Jurassic Park, right? Getting the genome or whatever.
And you just print it off, you can laminate it and toss it into the Quicks box.
Right.
So if you don't want to play Quicks, you play Jurassico.
Just so you know. Just to add to your dino.
I think it's on
No, I love this. We just got we never have ink in our printer, but we just signed up for Instant Ink. So now I can print all of these.
I think it's on Board Game Geek if there's a download.
Okay. Yeah. Go and listen to our Quicks episode.
I'm gonna put that in
the show notes.
In my January of dinosaurs or whatever. Whatever I call that. Yeah, so I think that was really fun. And then, gosh, you're really making this hard on me to only pick a few of them. But the other one that I want to, I think, talk about is Trekking the World, which is kind of like a sequel to Trekking the National Parks. Have you guys played either of them?
So good. I don't know what age. We're doing a round the world study with our daughter for her kinder/first grade year kind of thing. And I'm not sure kind of what the youngest age, but Trekking the World looks amazing. So tell us about it. I've just seen pictures.
I would say scaling, it goes Ticket to Ride, then probably Trekking the National Parks, then probably Trekking the World. That's just my opinion. So I think Trekking the World is probably a little bit more older end of early elementary, like 2nd and 3rd grade. Our kindergartner can play with some help, but he's definitely our gamer, and he's played Trekking the National Parks quite a bit, and there's similar mechanics, so that has helped him, I think. So I'm not sure that it would be the best game for a kindergarten first grader, but our 2nd grader loves it. And so it has kind of similar mechanics to Ticket to Ride in that you're collecting sets of cards, and then you're using those sets of cards to claim, in this case, a destination. But I love this one because I think it's just great for geography and then also for reading and even history. There's so much, because each of the destinations has a card, and it's just very beautifully illustrated. But on the back of every card, it describes the destination. So it's just different world wonder type places, different landmarks that would be in these different continents, and you're going to each of those places and then trying to claim them.
Yeah, the artwork is beautiful. I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, gorgeous. So I think the thing for me about this one is that I just love that it's a world map. I think so many of our games that are geography themed are more focused on the United States or Europe, but this one is just really colorful. It's really engaging, and I think it's fairly accurate. I mean, I can nitpick a US map a little bit better than a world map, but it seems like it's generally everything's in the right place. And, but it's definitely not just a kid's game. it is a light, it's one of those that falls into kind of a lighter adult or entry level game. Like the base Ticket to Ride game would be not the My First Journey, but the regular game. But I just love the mechanics of it, but I really love the artwork and that it's introducing them to the world. They've got a world puzzle, but they don't interact with that in the same way they interact with this map, understanding how to travel from one country to the other, because you're moving your little person, and sometimes you're flying between the places, sometimes you're just taking the path. But to just see the relationship between the places, and again, not just look at it in a book or look at it on a puzzle, but really interacting with it helps them to grasp. Like, our kids have like a bucket list of where they want to go when COVID is over, and it is ridiculous. Like, it is not feasible, but I'm like super excited that they want to go see these places that they've encountered in games like, you know, Trekking the World and Trekking the National Parks too, and want to go to visit them because they've engaged with them tangibly, again, not just like reading about it, which we do too. You know, everything we do with games, we always are incorporating with books. Like, I probably have as many books as I have games or more in our house too. It's bad, but when we go broke, we'll just live in a house of game boxes and books. But
Oh my God,
Your not so tiny house built on a game.
We're staring at a huge wall of books. We have so many books.
Yeah,
So
no.
yes, so we always time together. But I do think there's just that like extra element, like maybe they've seen it in the book and read about it, but when they're like somehow physically engaging with it in the game, it just takes it to that next level. So yeah, I could literally go on and on, but I've got like 85 games on our page. If there's any of them you want me to talk about, I can, if there's anything that struck your fancy, but those are kind of the ones
we would love to maybe bring you back at some point, you know, even for some short things, and have you give some further recommendations, because these were great. But you know, before we wrap up, we touched on it just super briefly at the beginning, but can you tell everyone about the charity aspect of Board Game Babies?
Sure. So I kind of mentioned it earlier. I don't know if I mentioned this or not, but I hadn't actually like intended to make a board game review page for public consumption. I just kind of thought I was throwing up a few reviews for people I know. But when the page started taking off and I realized I'd like joined this community and I never want to leave it, I wanted to do something good with it. You know, something that would potentially, hopefully make a difference. So I know like these games are super valuable for my family. I've seen and talked to a lot of other families, homeschool and just quarantining families that are enjoying games in this season of life. But it just really made me start thinking about kids that I used to work with that had struggled in school and how much games like this could help them. I actually spent about 5 years working in low-income, low-performing schools, and I ran a lot of after-school programs for kids that they just didn't have a lot of opportunities in their life. And like through some of the programs we did, like Drumline and Theater Club, it was just amazing to see kids that were struggling in the classroom connect to something that really clicked for them. Like it not only built their confidence, but it gave them an avenue to engage with academic concepts in just a different way, and just changed some of them. It completely changed their trajectory of their life. So as we're playing these games, I realized that games can do exactly the same thing. So like my daughter, who hated doing timed math X, loves doing the same problems when they're part of a game. And I just realized that's probably true for so many kids. And I wanted to find a way to help kids that maybe don't have access to games at home, or even their schools are underfunded, or their teachers are paying thousands of dollars out of their own pockets to provide basic school supplies for their kids in the classroom and can't afford to have games for indoor recess or, group work. So I figured if I'm going to have this page, I'm going to try to do something good with it. So right now we're just trying to get games in the hands of kids that could use them the most. And for me, schools were my first point of reference because that's the environment I'm used to. But I used to work in them for years, but I actually still write grants part-time for basic school supplies for low-income schools. But there are not a lot of grants out there for games, which is kind of sad. There are some for libraries, but I haven't really seen anything. If so, anybody has any resources, I'd love to know about them. But I kind of just decided I was going to hodgepodge my own way of like getting games to these kids. So a couple things we're doing to do this is any affiliate income that we get from links, either from our blog or the Amazon shop through Instagram, we're using to buy games to give in to kids in low-income schools. And then we've also expanded into foster families and group homes. We feel like, giving games to foster families for them to be able to bond together and learn at the same time just really fit with what we're trying to do. And then there are kids that live in group homes, and I don't even know if like the general public really, I was a social worker, if you haven't figured that out by training, but I used to volunteer in a group home, and these are just kids who, for a variety of reasons, aren't placed in a foster family, and they're in kind of like, a group setting, but they live there. And with COVID, they can't go anywhere. They can't do any outings. And so games have really been necessary for them, especially as winter comes up. And then we found out recently too, that like some teens are sometimes living in the county office buildings for a couple of days while they wait for placement. So trying to get games for them to keep them occupied and have something to do. So in addition to just taking that affiliate income and distributing games that way, we also have links in our bio that connect to wish lists to 2 organizations that distribute school supplies. Distribute games. One is an organization that distributes school supplies to kids at low-income schools, and then they distribute any games that are sent through the wish list or are donated as well. And the great thing about that organization is that teachers actually come to the organization and shop. It's set up like a Office Depot, or they go in and get the supplies they need, so they can actually pick what they want to take back to their classroom, so they would know, like, what's an appropriate game for their students' age level. And then the other wish list is the situation where the kids, the teenagers, aren't being able to be placed in foster families or group homes right away, so they're spending time living in the offices, and those games are going to them. So those are linked in our bio, so people can literally just buy through the Amazon wish list and it sends it directly to them. And then the other thing that we kind of launched this year, which we'll see how it ends up, this will be in January, so I don't know if we'll end it at the end of the year, keep it going, but we just kind of tried to encourage people who follow us and who are in the gaming world to donate games locally to them. And we called it like our Give a Game 2020 initiative, and just use like a hashtag and all those things that I really don't know what I'm doing with any of this, but I'm like trying to figure it out. So like, instead of us just like collecting money and trying to impact our little section of the world, we thought, like, if people picked a game or two and gave it somewhere local to them, like a food bank or a homeless shelter, or again, a domestic violence shelter, which I don't think are always on people's radar because they have so much privacy and secrecy for, safety reasons, or a teacher who teaches a low-income school, that would be just more impactful and wide-reaching for people to look into their community, see where the need is, and then give a really good game and not Candyland. So we like asked people if they did that to just donate, if they donated the games, to message us or tag us some way so we can know, and we've been keeping track of that, and we'll see how many games we end up getting donated. But I know some of it has been worldwide. Like a friend I have now through Instagram in the board gaming world just donated some in the London area that she purchased to donate at their local food bank. So someone in Japan said they're doing it too. So it's kind of fun to like see all across the world people who enjoy these games spreading the game love, but really too, to just hopefully make that impact of like, here we are talking about like how many games we have and like how much we're going to buy. And it's like, and it's true. We do, like we do, but like there's so many kids who, the kids I used to work with didn't even have a single book in their house, like not one single book, not one single book. Like, my kids are literally swimming, like they could fill a room and swim in books. And like, and I think games are just even less accessible. At least like there are donations, a lot of book donations, or teachers send them home sometimes, but like these games are really amazing educational resources. And I just want to try to get them to kids who could need them. So we gave like a ton of games to Sipping Queens, because that one I just think is, again, so easy to pick up and can span such a great age range. But people have been giving games local to them, all sorts of different ones that are important to them or that their family loves. So that's been really cool to see.
Yeah, well, that is just terrific.
Well, and we'll make sure to put that all in the show notes, and everybody who's listening can go ahead and connect with you guys on that, and then we'll make sure to link all the games that we referenced here to your page, so that if anybody's interested in getting a game, you can go down in the show notes and purchase through the Board Game Babies website, and then you guys can get that affiliate revenue and continue to pass on that good love. We really, really appreciate you spending, my goodness, an hour and a half with us, probably.
Hope that's okay. I didn't want to talk.
No, you've done an amazing job. Is there anything you wanted to, other than the charity work? Is there anything? Give us one more game. Give us one more game.
Oh, gosh, you're making this hard on me. Okay, let's see. Well, you play Unicorn Glitterluck, so I'm not going to talk about that one.
No more Unicorn.
I heard you mention in your Race to the Treasure, because I did listen to that one, that I've started, like, I shouldn't say this, but I've started like probably like 10 of yours and gotten like halfway through before my kids are like, give me something to eat, or just so anyway, I've heard lots of snippets of your podcast. But I don't know if I've listened to your short bites, all those I can listen to. But so you mentioned that you wanted to play Battleship at some point. Is that true?
Yes, eventually.
So one of my like favorite games, it's just for 2 players, like Battleship. It's by Haba and it's called Floaty Fight, and it is a dry erase like Battleship type game. So it comes in a little tin, and it's a travel game, but you don't have to play it when you just travel. And the 2 sides of the tins pull apart, and there's magnetic floaties that you put in your little pool, like your Battleship, like your ships in Battleship. And then you use your dry erase marker to ask each other your coordinates. But it's awesome too, because my kids, I did not realize they didn't know how to read a grid. Like they just, because we don't have Race for the Treasure, we have Karuba Jr., which does not have the grid, and I haven't bought the other one because I think they're pretty much the same game from my estimation. But Floaty Fight has taught them how to read. It's like a color and number grid. So it's like colored beach balls. I think it's colored number. Now I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, no, it's colored beach balls and numbers. I'm looking at it right now.
Yes. Okay. Yes. And so you're playing Battleship, but you're using, and their dry erase markers are terrible. So already replace them. Just get a second.
Got it.
But just come with like a little eraser, which I appreciate. But I think it's like the cutest themed game. And seriously though, maybe you love Battleship because you said you wanted to play it, but all those little pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Put it on the list.
I love that one.
Like motioning, buy this one, get this
quick.
And like our 5-year-old did struggle with it at first because he like, I think that was the first time he'd even seen like the concept of a grid. He was just like, I don't know how to do this. Like, and he still sometimes does, like, I think tell her the wrong thing, but I think that might be on purpose. But he's really learned how to read a grid, and it's just the cutest. It's the cutest themed game, and I love Haba.
Floaty Fight.
Floaty Fight by Haba.
Floaty Fight. Okay. All right, we'll put it down.
Sorry, I just added another one.
Oh no, thank you so much. We really appreciate your time, and I think it would be great. Maybe we could have you back to do some short bites with us in the future, because there's definitely there's a lot of goodness out there, and of course we want to find out about all of it. We
you
love
can
games
deal with
too.
my technology problems and my fast talking.
No, absolutely.
No, we really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Well,
today.
thank you guys for having me.
Thanks so much for joining us today and making us a part of your homeschool journey. Please engage with us on social media. Join our Homeschool Together podcast group on Facebook and find us at Homeschool Together Podcast on Instagram. We'd love to hear your feedback, questions, and recommendations. Until next time.
Happy homeschooling!